Before opening our first plenary session, we will briefly present challenges and way forward to address the midterm review of the Sendai Framework political declaration based on a survey of member states and international organizations and literature review. Our presenter is Mr. Paul Rosenberg, Associate Program Management Officer of the UNDRR Kobe office. So Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Momoko-san. Excellencies, distinguished guests and participants, good morning. To those of you who have traveled from near and far to join us today in Kobe, and to those who are joining us virtually from around the world, I extend our warm welcome to the International Recovery Forum 2024. Your presence, whether in person or online, is invaluable as we come together to understand the challenges that we face with post-disaster recovery and building back better, and to find solutions to accelerate global progress with Priority 4. Last year, the midterm review of the Sendai Framework mapped the balance of progress and challenges experienced in the first 7 years of Sendai Framework implementation, including Priority 4. As a reminder, Priority 4 is enhancing disaster preparedness for effective response and to build back better in recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. The reason we are here today at the IRP Forum is to better understand the results for Priority 4 and where we go from here. Because as we see increasing frequency and intensity of hazards, how we recover from these events and their impacts, and whether we are able to build back better, will play a determining role in our prospects for resilience, sustainability, and prosperity by 2030 and beyond. In the midterm review's assessment, global progress with the Build Back Better component of Priority 4 has been lagging. Among its conclusions, the political declaration on the midterm review found deep concern that Build Back Better principles were not being systematically applied in post-disaster recovery. It found that most countries lack pre-disaster recovery measures or preparedness to build back better before disasters strike, including, for example, but not limited to, with respect to governance, capacities, plans, frameworks, and financing. Finally, it stressed once again that greater strides are necessary with inclusive recovery and ensuring that no one is left behind. We need to understand why this is happening. What are the real challenges experienced by countries with recovery and what needs to be done? This is the aim of our discussions today at the forum, and for this reason, we have also conducted a study to dig deeper on progress, good practices, gaps, and challenges and needs. For this study, we conducted a survey. Many of you here today also participated in this, and we thank you for that. The survey is still open to you, and we still very much welcome your inputs. We conducted a thorough review of the literature, and to give you a sense of scale, in the Sendai period, there's nearly 1,000 recovery-related publications that we have built into the IRP recovery library online. As an opening to our discussions today, we'd like to share with you some of the highlights of the results with you. We'll share highlights of the gaps and challenges and a selection of the recommendations that came out of this study with you. The findings on progress and good practices will also be available soon as a separate exercise. These are some of the key challenges and gaps that we have understood from your feedback and from studying the literature. Many of the countries participating in the forum today participated in a workshop yesterday on pre-disaster recovery planning. This relates to many of the challenges and gaps that we have understood from your experience and from the results of the midterm review. Countries have experienced challenges in the realm of pre-disaster recovery planning and preparedness, advanced planning, prearranged agreements, contingency plans, policies, institutional arrangements, and financing for recovery. It is often the case that key recovery policies are not already in place when a disaster strikes, causing preventable delays and threatening to compromise resilient recovery outcomes. Financing mechanisms often have not been developed in advance of a disaster, meaning that necessary resources are often not there or in insufficient quantities when they are needed. Engagement and mechanisms to enable inclusive recovery are often not in place pre-disaster. Importantly, we are not learning enough from our own recovery experiences and others, and not institutionalizing the lessons that we already know in order to prepare better for recovery. We are often lacking capacity for post-disaster assessment. Recovery planning is not always well informed by the evidence from damage, loss, and needs assessment. Monitoring and evaluation systems are critical for management and monitoring of recovery, but they are often lacking, along with baseline data. And without baseline data and without proper monitoring and evaluation, how will we know if we're building back better or not? DRR measures are not adequately integrated into recovery. We're not adequately building resilience into our recovery plans and programs. Implementation issues consistently plague recovery programs, but do not have cookie-cutter solutions. The concept of better from building back better is constantly evolving. It's very context-specific. We spent a lot of the first half of Sendai trying to understand what better should mean. The extent to which recovery experiences deploy and benefit from building back better is not well understood. With these challenges and more in mind, how might we address them so that we can make meaningful progress forward with the latter half of Sendai Framework implementation? We've gleaned a number of recommendations from your responses and the literature of possible ways that we can think about addressing these challenges. I'd like to share with you just a few highlights for our discussion, but in the final report, I believe there is more than 30 of these. One idea was a readiness to build back better initiative to strengthen country capacity for preparedness for resilient recovery. Expanding the use of business continuity planning for both the public and private sectors. Consistent after-action reviews of disaster recovery programs to assess performance, identify gaps, formulate lessons, and document good practices in order to help institutionalize learning and improvement. Support the mainstreaming of disaster resilience in national planning and building back better in recovery planning. Develop and utilize policies as well as a checklist to ensure that adequate recovery policies are in place before the next disaster. Investing in targeted capacity building for recovery preparedness, planning, and management. Guidance on monitoring and evaluation of recovery programs. Provide a one-stop shop of information on how to access, manage, and track recovery financing, with a particular emphasis on measures for financial preparedness. Engage with climate adaptation programs to ensure that they are including resilience building and recovery as a part of their portfolio. Develop and collect information on and analyze indicators of progress with the adoption of the Build Back Better approach, and to support countries to review their policies, laws, and programs that concern post-disaster recovery to strengthen them in the area of building back better. Today, we are hoping to learn more from you about your experiences so that we can better understand the challenges and gaps that are experienced in post-disaster recovery, where there are needs, where there are challenges and gaps, and what works for you. The sessions today have been designed to address these key areas in greater depth so that we can work together to chart the next steps with scaling up progress with recovery. Thank you very much. I very much look forward to hearing from you and to learning from your experience.